Hey Bob, it's a pleasure to meet you. And yeah, like Beast Wars was a huge part of my childhood growing up. Like had a big influence on me just as a fan in general. It's what got me into Transformers. And yeah, I guess I had a question I want to ask about some of the stuff that I know that you and Larry had different ideas about like the Vok, for instance, in terms of like what the Vok were and stuff. That's all been recounted in interviews and such. Where did like for the Vok in general, like as a species, like where did that element come from, like narratively, like for coming out, and what direction were you guys planning on going with it? Like how did that whole
Well, the way Larry and I worked was I used to call it we would pull the rug out from under each other. We had an agreement that we were not allowed to change each other's scripts. On very rare occasions, we had to, basically veto something, and we were allowed to do that, or we were allowed to say, I'm going to do this, and you might find it useful, but for the most part, he would do something that would knock my socks off and take me completely by surprise, blindsided, and then I would write something to catch up and throw in something that he hadn't considered, and it actually, I think, made it feel more like a real world, because there was a lot of stuff that people, it wasn't entirely all planned out, and yet it all started to meld together into very much of a world-building experience. The Vok were one of those things. We knew we needed aliens. Essentially, we couldn't get a straight answer from Hasbro as to where we were or anything else at the very beginning. That's why we threw 2 moons in the sky. We assumed it was Earth, but we couldn't be sure about that. And then with ATT News Group, we started to play with the idea of putting the Ark in the thing. Right. But in that case, it had to be the Earth. Now, we never worried about the second moon because we figured, we'll just blow it up, which is just one of those, it was just one of those things where when you're writing a show like this, I don't know how, but we'll figure out a way to blow that thing up. And so that was actually how it worked out. Now, Larry wanted them pure aliens. I myself wanted them to be a super evolved version of humans. And so I was going with the Vok was just, the folk sort of, just entomologically deteriorated down to the Vok. And we were still in the process of arguing about that, but at least we did have these aliens, and so and we never did actually settle that question, other than they were superpowered aliens that they had to deal with that were forcing evolution on Earth for their own. So for my purposes, they were forcing it to try and make themselves happen in the future, because they could move back and forth in time. And Larry just wanted them to be forcing evolution because that was what they did. So, and as I said, we never did quite finalize that, but they were nonetheless a good third element to deal with sometimes.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.